I'm Starborn. Remember, to be a star, you have to shine your own light, follow your own path, and not be afraid of the darkness, because that's when stars shine brightest. Today's show, if you've been looking on our website, starborninstitute.org, you would already know that it is titled Liftoff. And that is because I'm happy to say, in one way or another, every single one of us could have liftoff in the next week due to, once again, this rare configuration of 4 planets that are each the ruler of their own sign, and they're at home in the sign they rule. Now, that occurred last week, but the other planets in the heavens have shifted positions, so it has a different effect this week, and it won't hold. In other words, the 4 planets won't stay where they are. One of them is about to leave its sign. So I hope that we can all enjoy liftoff in one way or another this week, because you could have the opportunity for that, and that would be rather nice. And so if we are starting once again with the fact that Neptune is in Pisces, and Pisces is the ruler of the 12th house of limitations and sometimes our self-doubts or what we're kidding ourselves about. But it's also a very creative sign, and it is an empathetic, understanding sign. It's a water sign, so it rules healing. And last week, Neptune in Pisces didn't have any support because there weren't any other planets in Scorpio or Cancer. But this week there is. And so that Neptune in Pisces does have support, and it's coming from the fact that the sun just now has moved from Gemini into Cancer. So it is at 0 degrees, a few minutes of Cancer, and if you round that off, you could say possibly 1 degree of Cancer. But that Neptune is trining that sun in Cancer. And together those 2 planets are trining the sign of Scorpio, which is a fixed financial sign. And so there is the possibility that you could have some liftoff about something that has to do perhaps with a move. Because since the sign of Scorpio is well aspected from a trine from these planets as well, it simply means that there could be some money around or some assets somewhere that you have or that you've sold that can help you make a very nice dream come true now. Pisces rules dreams. And so there could be a very nice dream coming true. And, we all change over time. Maybe today's dream is not what yesterday's dream is, but still it could be coming true now. And you could be getting liftoff due to additional financial assets or something that can help you move ahead with your dream. So that is entirely possible. And then right ahead of Pisces are Mars and Jupiter in Aries, just the way they were last week. But now there are more planets in Aries, because there's Mars, the ruler of the sign, and the moon today is in Aries, and Jupiter is in Aries. Ooh, that's 3 planets in just one sign. That's a powerhouse combination of planets in the sign that rules new beginnings. But unfortunately, this week, it's the sign of Aries that doesn't have any support, because there's nothing in Leo and there's nothing in Sagittarius to back them up. But the ruler is certainly in Aries, and Aries does rule new beginnings, and there are a lot of planets there. So I think that a new beginning does have liftoff. And it may be some new beginning that is your new beginning, or that you are associated with in one way or another. And I think it does have liftoff. I don't think it has anywhere to land, though, because there's no support from the other fire signs. As I began to think more about that, I thought, maybe it doesn't need to land. Maybe that's not the mission, or that's not the goal. It is possible that you could be connected to some sort of new beginning that has liftoff Well, for one thing, because it's a good idea. And yet, maybe it is simply something that is supposed to sort of be on standby so that the good idea can develop, and that its real purpose is to be there in case of emergency. Because in an emergency, I don't think anybody moves faster than an Aries. They really move fast. And so I think that that's possible, that a new beginning or a new idea of yours can have liftoff right now because Mars, the Moon, and Jupiter are in Aries. Something's certainly about to begin. But that it is meant to stand by. This new beginning is meant to be used in case of emergency. And so in a standby position, after it does its liftoff, that standby position is supposed to be used to develop it further. In other words, if you have to be ready in case of some emergency, there's a lot of work to do to do that. And so the end result would be that when the emergency arrives, you're going to move like greased lightning. You're really going to go. So when are you going to get prepared? And I think that's what's happening. The liftoff can put a new idea of yours into some sort of format that allows it to be on standby while it is developing and while the idea is maturing, so that it can be ready in case of emergency. So I don't think it needs to land. It needs to get ready for that, though. And then ahead of Aries are two planets that are in Taurus. And one of them is the ruler of the sign, Venus. But Venus has moved up to the 29th degree of fate in Taurus. And it is accompanied by Uranus, which is also in Taurus, but in much earlier degrees. And it's Venus that's going to move on. It won't be in Taurus next week. But for now, it's at the 29th degree of fate along with Uranus, and they are both being trined by Pluto, which is at 28 degrees of Capricorn, and it's retrograde. And those three planets are also trining the sign of Virgo. And so I think that there is the possibility that since the earth signs have a lot of good support, that there is a possibility of a very fortunate change. I mean, it's Venus and Pluto trining each other. Pluto rules powerful people in organizations. Venus in Taurus rules working hard and getting ahead and being rewarded for it. And Virgo rules details. So there is the possibility of a very fortunate change in the management of an organization. That's what Capricorn rules. It rules large corporations, government agencies, and institutions. And Pluto generally rules the management in them. So if there is a change in the management of, say, a corporation, or a change in the policy of the company or of the government agency, if there's a change in that, it would be very fortunate right now. And it could lead to a modest but very helpful long-term strength that comes into the organization and just little by little over time adds a lot of strength to the organization. See, Capricorn rules time, and Virgo rules modesty, and Taurus just rules hard work. But Taurus can also represent strength, and that's why I think if there's a fortunate change in management or in the policy of an organization or of a group, that would allow some sort of modest but very helpful strength coming into the organization, and it can produce long-term strength. In other words, it could come in as a smaller change, but over time, it just doesn't quit. It just keeps going, and it really strengthens the organization. It's not a one-night wonder or anything like that. It is something that just begins and keeps going, little by little, and turns out to be of great benefit. So that could happen. That's something where the liftoff is really the result of a beneficial or fortunate change in management or policy, and maybe just being a little bit more modest in their aims, but having the right idea, and it continues to add strength to the organization. Then the next sign that has a ruler in it is Gemini. And Gemini has Mercury, the ruler of the sign, in that sign, and it is at 9 degrees of Gemini today. And that's pretty interesting, because the new moon that we just had in Gemini a few weeks ago was at 9 degrees. And that Mercury today now, which is where the sun and the new moon were at 9 degrees a few weeks ago, now Mercury, the ruler, is there, and it is being trined by Saturn in Aquarius. And Saturn is retrograde. So is Pluto in Capricorn. And so there is the possibility, and together those two are trining the sign of Libra. And so, once again, we have liftoff, because Mercury's at home in the sign it rules. It's really strong on the degree of the sun and the new moon that just occurred in that sign. So that's a signal that new things are on our horizon. What does Gemini rule? Communication and easy transitional change and part-time or temporary work. So, if your career changes in any way, just look around for something that is not an equal replacement, but could be just a part-time or temporary replacement that might turn out to be the best thing that ever happened to you. I mean, this is a well-aspected planet, Mercury, on the 9th degree, and it is trining Saturn in Aquarius, and they're together trining the sign of Libra. What that means is that the liftoff could come from a very fortunate alliance or partnership, because remember they trine Libra, that's what Libra rules. And it could be a very fortunate alliance or partnership that is finally coming to fruition. In other words, yes, it really does have liftoff, but it has liftoff after many difficult delays. See, Saturn is retrograde, and Saturn is the planet of delay. So after many delays, this very fortunate alliance or partnership can come about. And it would tend to be, maybe it would be part-time, but it would be with exactly the right people. It would be with people that make good partnerships, or who believe in sort of pooling their resources and forming an alliance. Well, why not? If that leads to success, fine. So, what it means is that all of us, in one way or another, this week, have a rare and unique opportunity to have liftoff in one way or another. And so, look for that. If your outlook on life is a little cloudy right now, well, then you've got to look for where the clouds are parting and look for the blue sky beyond, because it's there. And in the darkest of night, the stars always shine. The light is always there. And so, don't worry, you can have liftoff. I'm just describing different kinds of liftoff, sort of depending on what comes around. But you shouldn't sit back and wait. You should go out looking for your dream to come true, because maybe it will. All right, what does this mean to all 12 of the sun signs? Aries. Well, Aries, I think you're just a ball of fire right now, and that's because there are so many planets in your sun sign. 3 of them. Mars, your ruler, is there, and so is the moon, and so is Jupiter. And so, Aries, I am sure you feel supercharged and that you are bursting with enthusiasm for something that you would like to do your way. And I think you're going to be able to do that, Aries. The problem is that I don't think you're going to be able to finish or complete your idea at this time. I mean, that can still come up, but not at this time. What you've got is liftoff. But because there are no other planets in the fire signs, there's nothing in Leo and there's nothing in Sagittarius supporting your sign, you have this whole group of great ideas. And I would say that you are right on. I mean, you really should pursue those, Aries. But they have nowhere to land at the moment. And the reason why is that your good ideas are not thoroughly enough developed to result in a landing or to result in a completion. You have more to do. But then everything successful starts with a good idea, and you do have the good idea, Aries. So I'd keep thinking about it if I were you, and start writing things down and getting organized, and go out and see people or contact people, or get the ball rolling. You are very good at that, Aries, and somebody's got to get the ball rolling. And so if you are open to new ideas that can sort of fill out the main idea that you have, that would be good. I mean, if you want your idea to last, it can't be a one-night wonder. It's got to be something that is really developed well, so that it has staying power. And so that would be the idea behind this, that you have something that does represent a new beginning, but I don't think it has anywhere to go at the moment because it hasn't been worked with enough. It's like you got to put more ingredients into it to make it successful. And so it's on standby while you are sort of gathering your resources, maybe testing something out. Well, that's fine. That's what this time is for. But somehow your idea is going to have something to do with the need to have it be used in case of an emergency. And I think that, you've got the beginning of the idea, and we've got how it's supposed to end by performing well in an emergency. But what we're missing is that middle part, the whole development process. So go to it. Aries, I think you've got liftoff, but you now have your work cut out for you before you can go and see the success of your idea. You really have got some work in progress to do first. So good luck. Okay, what does it mean to a Taurus? Taurus. Venus, your ruler, is at the fateful 29th degree in your sign. It's about to leave your sign. And the 29th degree of Taurus is where there is a blind star. And generally, people who have trouble with their eyesight, they either have a planet in Taurus or their sun is pretty close to that 29th degree or something like that. That can give a person eye trouble when in their own chart they have a planet on the 29th degree of Taurus. Well, right now it's your ruler that's there. It's moving on. It's not going to stay. But it does mean that you, Taurus, might have been blind to some financial vulnerability. In other words, Taurus thinks if they just work hard and get well paid for it, that will give them a secure future. Well, that's true, Taurus. You're right about that. But you may have overlooked what else can contribute to that secure future of yours. And it can be that it's your employer that's paying you, so whatever's happening to your employer is going to affect you. Or it is the state of your investments, and if the value of them has been falling, that could affect your secure future. Do you see what I mean? There's extenuating circumstances that really don't depend on your hard work, what they depend on are market forces or the health of your employer. And so Taurus, you can be vulnerable right now to a sort of a little blind financial spot, meaning that you may not have ever thought of a plan B as to what happens if the hours on your job get reduced because these are bad economic times, or what happens if the interest rates go up and so does your mortgage payment. I mean, lots of people have to start thinking about things like that. And so, Taurus, this would be a very good time for you to be working with an organization or a company or somebody who, particularly with your employer, if you could be looking for some sort of management change, and either having your management change in your company, or else you looking for better management in some other company. That you might find that. And in other words, if you're sort of thinking that, boy, there's not enough money around where you are anymore and you're feeling sort of vulnerable because of that, then why don't you look around for some other job? You're under good aspects to have liftoff and get that. And so maybe this is a better time for you to be considering a new career choice or a different career path. Because there can be shrinkage or shortages now, financial shortages in a lot of people's lives. And that is, since you are such a good hard worker, maybe you need to look for another challenge somewhere else. And you have no reason to doubt yourself. You know you can succeed. But you may not be with the, if your employer is not doing too well right now, I would not go down with the ship, Taurus. I would start looking for something better as soon as possible. And you can do it. And that would maybe make you feel more secure, which would be a good idea. There are even some Taurus people who might be thinking of getting a little part-time job on the side to make up for investment losses. That's an idea too, but make it pretty tired to be doing two jobs. Maybe it's better just to have one job, but have it be a better one somewhere else. So good luck. Okay, what does it mean to a Gemini? Gemini. Well, Gemini, Mercury is in your sign. It's at the very same degree, the 9th degree, that the Sun and New Moon were in your sign a few weeks ago. You're supposed to be finishing something up, Gemini, and you have a tremendous support behind you because Saturn is it's retrograde, but it's in Aquarius, the sign of the future, and it is beautifully trining that Mercury in your own sign, and Mercury is your ruler. And together those two strong planets are trining the sign of Libra. And so there is the possibility of liftoff now that has something to do with a very fortunate alliance or partnership that can be formed, that you are connected with in one way or another, Gemini. And it wouldn't have to be a big deal. It could even just be a small deal, but one that has a lot of long-term potential strength to it. And if it does, that could provide a very fortunate alliance or partnership that is agreeable to you. And you would be just as agreeable to others. In other words, there is, I would say, even if you stayed in the same job you've got right now, I would say that your relationships are going to have liftoff. And the reason why is I think there's somebody in a high position that is very much in your corner. And one of the things I like about you is your ability to communicate, which they value. Maybe their ability isn't quite as good as yours because they do value you for that. And so look around. Don't be surprised if somebody says, do you want to come and work with me? I do work on a project or something like that. Why don't you say yes, Gemini? It could be just a very pleasant experience for you. And nothing wrong with that. Okay, what does it mean to a Cancer? Cancer. This is a time when you do sort of perk up and benefit from things right now, Cancer. And the reason why is that the sun just came into your sign. And it's being beautifully trined by Neptune in Pisces. And Neptune is direct. And so, since the sun in your sign and Neptune in Pisces are both trining the sign of Scorpio, which is a fixed financial sign, there is the possibility, Cancer, that you might be able to put your hands on some assets or something that you could sell that would bring in more money for you to make a dream come true. And that dream could have something to do with a home, because your sign rules real estate. Residential real estate is what your sign rules. And it can be that you are thinking, if you're a little bit older and getting close to retirement, you might be thinking of downsizing. You know, maybe you don't need the biggest home in the world because the kids aren't there anymore and you're ready to retire. So you may decide to downsize, and that would be a project that could take a little work, and it would have liftoff right now. So that's possible, Cancer. So you're really under good aspects right now to make something that you've been thinking about already. In fact, you've been doing more thinking about that sort of behind the scenes than people realize. And you could be much more ready to sort of jump in and have that liftoff and get going. And summer is a perfect time to do that. You know, it's always better to build when the weather's good. And so I wish you the best of luck. I think there's going to be some money around to do that with, even if all you're doing is remodeling something. That could work out very well for you. So good luck. Okay, what does it mean to a Leo? Leo. Well, Leo, you can be associated with people who have a lot of get up and go right now, because Mars, the moon, and Jupiter in Aries are all trining your sun. And so that's good for you, Leo. It means that you know some people that have a great idea and they want it to begin right now. They're just eager to get it going. And you could say to yourself, well, okay, I'll join you. And you could do that, Leo. But I think you have your mind on other things as well. So it sort of depends on how you plan your time. And the reason why I say that is because there are some planets that are challenging your sun sign. And first of all, Uranus and that Venus at the critical 29th degree of fate in Taurus are squaring your sun. Well, that means that Venus is exactly squaring the 29th degree of Leo. And that is where the fixed royal star Regulus is. And so it has the brightness of 100 of our suns. I mean, it's a real shiny star. And yet Venus is squaring that exactly today. And so, and Venus is at home in Taurus. It's very strong. So Uranus is also squaring your sun. And that's simply means that if you wanted to make a dream come true, or you wanted to work on some project and sort of do it a little bit more your way, not anybody else's way, you'd be almost biting off more than you can chew, because, gee, you would be left with having to raise the money, and then you'd have to organize everything, and then you'd have to be responsible for the mistakes that other people make. That could irritate you. And still, if it didn't work, if you had liftoff but it didn't go anywhere, you might become very impatient, and the end result would be losing money, not making money. You know, Venus is squaring the 29th degree in your sign. And then Saturn is retrograde in Aquarius at 25 degrees, and it is opposing your sun sign, but it's retrograde. There's going to be further delay or a change in policies or management. And when that happens, it will affect your future in one way or another, Leo. It doesn't necessarily have to be bad, but it is, you know, there could be a few delays is what I'm saying. So I think if you have your choice of a project that you want to see have liftoff, you just need to be really careful in your choice. It isn't that you can't make it. It is, you know, how hard do you want to work? How much money is it going to cost? How much time is it going to take? How much liability will you have if you get involved? So a whole lot of things to think about, Leo. And the strength of the planets and fire signs is only in Aries. There's nothing in your sign and there's nothing in Sagittarius. So if you were thinking of taking the lead on something, I would urge you to just step back for a minute and think about what your real responsibilities might end up being, and then decide if you want to have liftoff. Now, I think you probably have a couple of good ideas, and so do other people that you know. So you're going to have to sort of go as if it's a menu, and you're going to have to go through and see what each thing has to offer you before you make up your mind. And the first and last thing you should check is to see if it will be profitable, because it might not be. So you need to be careful about that. You could do a lot of the liftoff work, but sooner or later you would not want to spend too much time on something that isn't profitable, because then you're just wasting your time. So you need to think about that. Okay, what does it mean to Virgo? Well, Virgo, you have some good planets trining your sun, because Uranus and Venus in Taurus are trining your sun, and so is Pluto in Capricorn. Pluto is at 28 degrees of Capricorn, and it is very closely trining Venus at 29 degrees of Taurus. And together, along with Uranus, these three planets are all trining your sign, Virgo. So, you know, Virgo, I think you've got your mind on the bottom line, on dollars and cents, on budgets, and how much things cost, and what the payback will be in any kind of an investment. When times get tough and inflation is out of sight, which is not something we have seen in decades, but we got to live with it now, and debts is running very high, and interest rates are going up, we're almost caught in a sort of a financial tidal wave that can be sort of pouring over all of us, and nobody can escape it at the present time, because it's like a perfect storm. I mean, we have the high inflation, so our money isn't worth as much. Then we have the prospect of job layoffs because the economy is getting too soft, and then interest rates are going up, so payments can be growing, getting higher and higher. And so, Virgo, this may be a better time for you to work on those budgets a little bit more, and try to have liftoff in your own investments, or try to go through the things that you already own. Okay, so I'm not talking about spending any extra money, Virgo. I'm just saying, go over everything that you own, maybe tally it up, see how much it's worth today, just for you to know. And then if you feel like, okay, what am I doing with this, and you decide to sell something instead, that's not a bad idea, because you may just somehow in your life, you may have sort of turned into a giant storage facility, and you may just have more things around that you have never used for years, and maybe you could just sell it. In other words, making your life more streamlined, but probably in a way more profitable because whatever you have left is really usable, and you can have liftoff, and you can, when you get a good idea, and you can go forward without sort of being shackled to the past, or without bringing a whole lot of baggage with you. I'd just get rid of the baggage. May as well, because you're under very good aspects. Because when there is a change in management or there is a change in policy, it can result in modest but helpful long-term strength in an organization. And if that doesn't sound like the way Virgos work, I don't know what does. That is how Virgos work. They just get in there, sometimes by themselves, and they just do the job. So over a long period of time, you can become very, very strong in your own quiet way. And people will really like you for that. So lots of food for thought there, Virgo. Okay, what does it mean to a Libra? Libra, you are under wonderful aspects because Mercury in Gemini is trining your sun, meaning you're very popular with young people right now. They all think you're wonderful. And because that's what Gemini rules, youth. And then Saturn in Aquarius is trining your sun as well. That's the big one. It means that there are old friends or there are people in high places that really value you, Libra. And they may have known you a long time, or they may know of you. You may have a good reputation, and they know that, you know, you're rock solid in whatever you do. You really know what you're doing. So that can be good as well. It can also be, since Saturn has been in Aquarius for a couple of years, that you have begun in the last couple of years to think sort of how to make yourself be at your best. In other words, at another time in your life, you wouldn't have minded if you were doing a little of this and a little of that and sort of running around and, you know, having a lot of things on your plate to do. That wouldn't have bothered you. But maybe at this time in your life, you would like to get down to something that is more quality time. So whatever time you spend on it, you really get something out of it. So I would think that would be something that you love. Either something you love doing or doing things with somebody that you love. And the aspects are such that there could be a very fortunate alliance or partnership that you are going to be involved with that will have liftoff after many difficult delays. So you probably know all about the difficult delays. But there is the possibility that can be finished now. And that, you know, time marches on and you're going to get a chance to march with it, Libra. And use your time as quality time. So it must be that you're going to do something around people you really like. Or you're going to be doing something that you really like doing for others. And that will make you feel good. So that could happen too. Lucky you. Okay, what does it mean to a Scorpio? Well, Scorpio, there are more planets trining your sun sign now, Scorpio. Oh, that's good. Because Neptune in Pisces is trining your sun sign. But the big one is the sun is in Cancer now, and it too is trining your sun sign. And so with these two planets sort of getting ready for liftoff, Scorpio, it simply means that there can be assets around or money around somewhere that you would know about, because yours is a financial sign, that can be used to make a dream come true. And everybody dreams, including you, Scorpio. And so this is a time when it looks to me like you will have the money to make a dream come true. Now, I'm not so sure that the dream is coming true. You've got to have the money before. I mean, you may have had the dream for a long time, but without the money, it's not going to go anywhere. So to have liftoff, even if you don't have the quite all the money that you are going to need right now, you could start putting a budget together for that, Scorpio, because maybe you want to remodel your home. Maybe you're reaching a time in your life where you want to downsize a little because you're getting close to retirement. Well, that's fine. You could do that. Or maybe it is simply that you are feeling like modifying your home in some way. Some people, as they get a little bit older, they have these ramps built so that it's a little easier to get in and out of their house. And so maybe you could be thinking of one of those too. I don't know. But it looks like you're going to have the money to make a dream come true, Scorpio. And I know one thing about that dream. That dream is going to heal you just as much as it heals somebody else. And what I mean by that is, let's just say you are remodeling your home and there's nobody in it but you, but still when someone comes, it will heal them as much as it's going to heal you. So that will be good. So go ahead with liftoff, Scorpio. You certainly are going to be able to complete something. And making a dream come true is a wonderful thing to do. So it doesn't matter how long it takes, you should just go at it. Okay, what does it mean to a Scorpio? I mean to a Sagittarian? Sagittarius. Well, Sagittarius, just like Leo, there are 3 dynamic planets that really have liftoff in Aries. And that's because Mars, the Moon, and Jupiter in Aries are trining your sun, Sagittarius. And your sun rules long-distance travel, higher education, the courts. It rules people from foreign countries and large international bodies like the United Nations or the World Court or the World Bank. And so this is a time, and it rules religion and philosophy. This is a time when you can be sort of thinking high thoughts, Sagittarius. So that's fine. You can be concerned with legal matters or anything that needs a philosophical viewpoint. You could be thinking about a lot of things carefully, maybe even forming your own viewpoint after you've sort of looked at all the facts. That would be fine. But at the same time, I think that you're going to have a little bit of pressure on you, Sagittarius, to jump into something that represents a new beginning. And the question is it your new beginning or somebody else's? Well, it might be somebody else's because all the strength in the fire signs is not in your sign, it's in Aries. So somebody who's got an idea for a new beginning and is going to have liftoff may ask you to join them. But before you say yes, Sagittarius, you should find out a little bit more about what would be expected of you. And how could their expectations and the work they would ask you to do, how does that fit in with your goals? Because it might not be a great fit. It might be something that isn't exactly how you want to spend your time. So you would need I think if somebody comes at you and says, hey, I've got this great idea, let's do it. You ought to say, well, do you have something I could read about that? Or do you have some facts that I could just run over a little bit and take a look at? Something like that, Sagittarius. All fire signs move fast, but yours is an intellectual sign. It thinks things out before it does something. And so you need to find out a whole lot more about some new beginning that somebody else may want you to make. And you need to ask yourself if it's a good fit for you. If it is, fine. But it may not be. So you need to be a little bit careful. And the reason why it may not be is because you may not be given much authority to do things your way. And so that would mean that a new beginning, it means that you're always taking orders from somebody else, that may not fulfill you as much as if you just stayed and did something your way. So you have to think about that. Okay, what does it mean to a Capricorn? Well, Capricorn, this is a time when you really have to decide, Capricorn, if that wonderful, expensive thing that you're thinking about doing, which you can afford, is something that you should do. Well, I think it's something you should do, Capricorn, because Venus is now in Taurus at the fateful 29th degree. It's going to leave, but it has made you very popular the whole time it's been in Taurus because it's trining your sun, and it's trining Pluto in your sign. And also, Uranus has been trining your sun sign as well. So, Capricorn, I think you can afford to do what you want, and even if it's expensive, it can be something that the timing is very good on right now. In fact, you've almost let it go too long. And if you are thinking of making an investment in something that's a little bit pricey but has high value, in other words, it's not going to lose value, or you're thinking of selling something, you could go ahead and sell something too, with the idea of having a new beginning and spending that money on a new beginning, maybe a trip that you want to go on or a business that you want to start. And so you can do that, Capricorn. You have to sort of like quit thinking about it and go look at your budget and make sure you can afford it. If you can afford it, then this is a very good time for you to spend the money and do it. And the reason why is that Venus has been, the whole time that Venus has been in Taurus, you've been very popular and somewhat lucky. And so if you're going to have liftoff, I think it's going to be on something that you really love, or it could even be involving somebody that you love. But believe me, they love you too. I mean, there's something real nice in your relationships now, Capricorn. People appreciate you more, maybe more than you realize. And so this is a time when you should act on those things. And if you need to spend a little money for one reason or another, you've got it. Go ahead and do it. Because it's better to do it when the stars are with you than when they're not. And Venus is about to leave Taurus, so just quit thinking about something, Capricorn, and do it if you can. Okay, what does it mean to a Aquarian? Well, Aquarius, this is a time, Aquarius, when you can be experiencing delay in one way or another, because the planet of delay, Saturn, is in your sign and has been for a couple of years now, and it's retrograde. And yet, it's being beautifully trined by Mercury in Gemini. And together, those planets are trining the sign of Libra. You really are under some pretty good aspects, Aquarius, for you to understand that the liftoff that you could be experiencing sooner rather than later. In other words, next week instead of next year. It can be that there is a fortunate alliance or partnership that can be having liftoff now, and you'd be involved in that, Aquarius. Even if you had doubts about it, you should do it anyway, because the flow of information and communication would be excellent. And perhaps some of your doubts are in your mind, but when you get them out and start talking about them, and other people have their input, they may just disappear. So no reason for you to wait. A very fortunate alliance or partnership is possible, and it's possible after many difficult delays, which you may have experienced in the last year or two. And I'm not saying that Saturn is direct yet, because it isn't. But still, the planets have moved a little bit. And this is sort of a welcoming thing for you. And besides, somebody else has had to do an awful lot of thinking. It's somebody you know, Aquarius. They have to do a lot of thinking over a long period of time, and they finally are getting to the end of that and making up their minds. And that is going to do you a lot of good. That is that Mercury at 9 degrees of Gemini. Because 9 is a finishing number. So good luck. Okay, what does it mean to a Pisces? Pisces. Well, Pisces, you are far luckier this week than last week because Neptune is in your sign just like it was before, but now it has some support. Remember last week it was the only ruler in a sign that didn't have any support because there were no planets in Cancer or Scorpio. Well, that's changed now, Pisces, and the sun has just gone into Cancer. It's going to be there for a while because it's only at 1 degree, and it's trining your sun. And together those two planets are also trining the sign of Scorpio. So your sign does rule dreams, Pisces. Pisces, they're never short on dreams. They have a lot of them. And also, when Pisces do have dreams, they tend to be rather prophetic. You know, if they sort of think about those dreams, they can figure out what they mean. But this is a time when there can be some assets or some finances, some money around somewhere to help you make a dream come true, Pisces. And if I were you, I'd sort of jump on that. Because how often can a dream come true? Well, generally, we can dream, but it isn't real until you make it come true, and that generally takes money in order to do that. And it's looking like you're going to have the money, Pisces. Now, how about the timing? Would it be that pennies are going to drop out of heaven and make you rich overnight? No, I don't think so. But there could be something like some additional money coming in an income tax refund, or in an insurance payment of some sort, or an inheritance, or somebody decides to give you a loan, or maybe you gave them the loan and now they're paying you back. So whatever it is, I think you're going to have the money soon to make a dream come true. And you might have to change some of the things that you've planned in advance in order to make this dream come true. But I would do it if I were you. How often do dreams come true, Pisces? If you've got a chance for that, go right ahead. And just alter your other plans so that your dream does come true. You won't regret it at all. So I wish you and everyone else a lot of luck this week, because all of us have a chance for some kind of liftoff. And so I just hope that we enjoy that, because this is the last week that these four somewhat magical rulers, each in their own sign, Neptune in Pisces, Mars in Aries, Venus in Taurus, and Mercury in Gemini, this is the last week that'll happen. So we need to adapt to good fortune. Or when you have liftoff, it can be so rejuvenating, you should not let it go. You should follow through. Okay, thanks so much for tuning in. You can see our show and read our blog on our website, STARBORNinstitute.org, or you can subscribe to it, and I'd be happy to send it to you if you subscribe to my Karen Campbell YouTube channel, and I will send it out every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time. Until then, I'll see you next week. Bye.